Welcome to A Well-Designed Business with your host, LuAnn. LuAnn has a lifetime of experience building a multi-million-dollar business with her husband and cousin, and she knows the challenges you face in your interior design business. LuAnn brings you real-life answers to your most pressing problems, as well as practical strategies to explode your interior design business. So, let's get to the business of interior design.
Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. Lisa Escobar is with me today. Lisa Escobar Design is a growing Las Vegas firm whose work includes luxury high-rise condominiums on the Las Vegas Strip and partnering with architects on commercial spaces, both locally and nationally. You'll hear in our discussion today how Lisa spent more than a decade working at Las Vegas Strip hotels, including Wynn Las Vegas and Encore. We talk about how this expertise of working alongside hotel executives, nightclub owners, and high-profile clientele has informed her design, her clientele, and her client experience. Lisa's firm embodies and delivers 5-star, 5-diamond principles to every project. Lisa was honored as a Woman of Intrigue by Las Vegas Weekly in 2016. In March 2017, the Las Vegas Urban Chamber of Commerce spotlighted Lisa as one of its Women of Business and Industry. She was also a finalist for HGTV's Fresh Faces of Design and a colorista for White and Company's luxury solid surfaces line. Lisa and her team are particularly proud to have won the Best of Houzz Award 4 years in a row, and that they were named by Build Direct as one of the best interior designers in Las Vegas. Also, Lisa has participated in the Instagram Designer Takeover for High Point Market and View on Vegas for Las Vegas Market. There's one more reason I invited Lisa on the show. If you are a loyal listener, your clue is to recall the episodes with Christy Lou and Darcy Heather. And if you're new to the show, well, welcome and listen to see what Lisa has in common with these two previous guests. And if you are new to the show, you may not know that our show is sponsored in part by MyDoma Studio. MyDoma Studio is the project management software for your interior design business. You can and you should customize MyDoma Studio to your design firm's brand so that you can give your clients and your vendor partners the experience they deserve. And it helps bring your firm to the next level with a professional presentation of every communication that your client and your vendor team receive. Try MyDoma Studio for yourself. Go to www.mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. Now, let me introduce you to Lisa. Hey, Lisa, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thank you for having me. I am honored to be here today.
Yeah, so this has been a long time in the making, you and I.
It has.
Exactly. So we were initially connected. I should have looked it up. Let me see if I can do two things at once. I don't know. I get very challenged, but I'm getting better at this. We were initially connected through both Christy Lou and Darcy Heather, because I had met, Darcy contacted me. I don't remember which happened first. I think Christy contacted me, and I met her back at the IWCE conference in Charlotte last year where I was speaking. And she came up to me and introduced herself, and we had been, I'm pretty sure, already going back and forth. And she told me at that meeting how she had a really cool thing happen to her, and she expressed how she had met 3 other interior designers at a interior design workshop summit, and that the 4 designers all hit it off and decided to meet for a little weekend retreat, the 4. And
that's right.
Right. And it turned out that it was you and Darcy and Jessie Cooney. And so at that moment, when Christy told me that, and in Charlotte, I was like, okay, so you have to be on the podcast and tell me about that. And then I was like, and I have to have all the others on the podcast.
Yeah, that was an awesome weekend that we had together.
Yes. I mean, you guys really, for anybody, let's see, Darcy was episode 220 where we discussed it. And now I'm going to multitask one more time and tell everybody what episode Christy was on, because we did talk about different aspects of this, weekend and the benefits that came out from it for you guys. So Christy was on episode 182. There I am. I am a genius. I can officially multitask. Okay. So episode 182 with Christy and 220, I think I just said, with Darcy, and I haven't gotten Jessie on the line yet, but we finally, you and I, have been going back and forth for several months, and one thing or another, mostly on my part. My apologies.
No, not a problem.
So, but the thing is, what's interesting is that not only am I happy and want to kind of talk about that again, the value of getting together and really having that one-on-one quality time with other interior designers, but also, in addition to that, your firm is a pretty interesting firm. And so I was happy to learn about that, and we want to share that with everybody. So let's just take a minute first, Lisa, and let's talk a few minutes about the value of that weekend, and from your perspective, what you learned from it and why it was such a great experience for you.
Great. Sounds good. Well, first off, those other ladies are absolutely amazing. To see what they do in their business life and how they run their businesses hats off to them. But beyond that, their personal lives, they're not just sitting at home waiting for business to come to them. They all have families. They're super women in my eyes, and I definitely look up to that. So I had to say that, because I think they're all amazing women, and what we all brought to the table was something different, and we were all very honest about our businesses. And I think that's the thing, is when you meet other business owners, other designers, maybe they're not so transparent. Yeah. And we were. And I loved that, because we were talking about our strengths, our weaknesses, and how we could, improve ourselves and our businesses. And I think that was the secret sauce right there, is we were honest with one another. And we were able to help one another and look at where those improvements could be made. So.
And what's the thing about it, the key is the level of intimacy. It's the small group environment that enables you to have that little trust factor, right? It's sort of like, what happens here stays here, right?
Yeah. Well, and really, not even just the what happens here stays here. We shared with one another. We shared our experiences, and in hopes that it would help the other person, maybe not make the same mistake or learn from it. So instead of keeping all of that information to ourselves, whether we were embarrassed or ashamed, we made it a positive experience for the other person.
Right. That's really very significant. And the thing is, look, the little weekend retreat was held at Jessie's house, right, in upstate New York. And
That's
here you
correct.
are from Las Vegas, and Darcy, New York, so not so far, but not around the corner. It's not like Manhattan is right at upstate. And then Christy from the DC area. You went out of your way to do this.
I did, and I got snowed in when I was trying to go back home. I stayed an extra night, but we, as business women would do, we made a party out of it, a design business party.
That's awesome. So. I know they were telling us too how that happened, and but I think that it's terrific, and I was so immediately taken with it when Christy first told me about it last year in March, and so I just wanted to share a few minutes of that and how it helped all of you. So that's great. Okay, now here's what I learned once I was like, okay, so I wanted you on the show because of that angle, but then I learned really cool things about you and your business, Lisa. And one of the things is that you really have niched your business. And of course, if you listen to the podcast, I'm such in favor of finding a superpower, niching to it, leading it with it in your marketing. And even if you do 20 other things really well, keep doing them, but to drive it in the marketplace so that you stand out among the other choices that every consumer has at their fingertips to make. And your niche is, high level CEO, typically male, high performing earners, busy people, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Lisa. I understand that you've leveraged, this is another thing that I often love when it comes up in discussion, is that, you leverage your previous work life experience, person experience, any previous. Erica Ward was on the show in one of the first episodes in the first quarter of 2016, and she talked about your transferable skills. What do you bring from your charity work, from your previous work experience, from your personal experience with running a PTA, and how can you apply it to your business? So I recognize when I was going through my research with you that that's what you've done. So explain it to everybody else.
Absolutely. Well, I do have to start off saying I had no idea who my ideal client was. And I did not have the niche figured out, at least not in the first 6 months of starting my business. Okay. I worked in the hospitality business for at least a decade, probably a little more than that, prior to opening my business. And the reason I left was because I was tired. I was worn out. I was making a lot of money, but at that point in my life, I knew that I didn't have the freedom I wanted. I didn't have time to spend with my family or my friends and sit down and read a book. I didn't have time for that.
What's that?
Right? Or even listen to a podcast.
Oh, well, see, now you're getting crazy now.
Right? I know. So, I wanted to create that freedom, and I knew that I always wanted to run my own business. So I left, and I didn't have a plan. Oh. So sounds crazy, but I just kind of jumped in and went for it. And I thought that initially my clientele would be girls just like myself. Single women who wanted to make their environment pretty and inspiring and creative. And I was absolutely wrong. And I'm glad I was wrong because it's been a journey. It's definitely been fun figuring that out. So how did that happen? I started putting myself out there on LinkedIn, all the social media channels, which I had not previously. So I was a good 5-6 years behind everyone else. I didn't have any Facebook, no Instagram. But because I realized, okay, you're starting a business, you need people to understand what you're doing now. I put myself out there. And the people who started to reach out were my previous coworkers or previous clients that I had worked with in the hospitality business. And they were exactly what you just described, the owners, the CEOs of their own companies, high-level executives who were reaching out because they knew that they needed a little bit of assistance in their home, and they trusted me from working together or at least dealing with one another in our previous, work environment. So I already had that trust factor with them. And I think I know that's a big part of my success today.
Okay. So what happened is, now I'm not sure if I'm clear, but your previous work experience, I mean, I know that it wasn't interior design. Was it correct? Right. Okay. So was it something that lended itself to interior design? I think it was event planning for high level things like that. Clear us up on that.
Actually, so being in Las Vegas, we have this amazing landscape to pull from, having the Las Vegas Strip. We all of these amazing resorts on Las Vegas Boulevard to work at and get experience and gather all of that. So I've worked at the front desk of Caesar's Palace. I worked at some of the most elite properties on the Strip. So always in hospitality, but the main chunk of my work was in a nightclub setting. Oh. So I worked as a VIP host, I worked as a cocktail server, a bartender, and then the last 5 years I was in the management sector. And I couldn't have learned more in that area, and it definitely gave me all the skills that I needed to at least start my business.
Okay. So when I think about some of the skills that are coming from all of those positions, from a front desk customer relations person all the way to the manager of a VIP nightclub, what I keep hearing is customer service, is attention to detail. It's creating the experience for people, right? Okay. At a high level where it matters, right? Okay. So that's an amazing thing to learn. I've had guests on the show describe how one of the great places that a young designer can spend some time in the beginning part of their career is working in retail in a furniture showroom or something like that, because you not only are in your environment, but you're learning customer service. So you didn't do it in a furniture showroom, but you also did it in an environment where the stakes are a little bit higher for customer service, I would say.
Absolutely. We were serving customers who not just were spending a lot of money, but they were losing a lot of money in the casino.
Which makes them a little testy.
Exactly. So you really get to learn how to treat people, to anticipate their needs, and to really communicate. I mean, it really was the best school I could ever attend.
Yeah. And you know what? The stakes are high. I have to tell you, it's interesting because just 2 weekends ago, my husband and I were at the Borgata in Atlantic City. And, look, we live here, so it doesn't feel like, oh, my God, I get to go to the Borgata. But it's a nice hotel. It's as nice as any Las Vegas hotel. I mean, we go to Las Vegas ourselves a couple of times a year. And so I have to tell you, Lisa, we stood walked in the reception area, the, customer service, the front desk, like you said, to ask for some info. I don't know what he needed, his player card or something. And I specifically stood there. There were 4 people waiting on clients. And I specifically noticed that they didn't have the same outfit on. And I just thought, what the heck? Like, am I at the Borgata? Like, I just was like literally dumbfounded. I just thought, what am I at, Motel 6? Like, this is the 4 people that greet you and they all have their own street clothes on? Like, it was weird. It was weird. I mean, and I don't know that it was quite street clothes, but it wasn't. There was one had an over sweater on, one had a button down white, one had a button down black. I was just like, they looked individually. If only one person were standing at the counter, I would have noticed that it wasn't a uniform, but they looked smart. They looked put together. But together as a group, I just was like, what is that about? That's not good. That's a detail. That's a detail missed, right? It's a detail missed, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and not at that level. That's like it's not. It's now I didn't walk out the darn casino. You know what I'm saying? But I have to say it goes to impressions and it goes to level of detail, and that's what we're describing. How those skills that you learned in that environment, I can imagine very easily you're bringing them to the client experience at your interior design firm, and just being that just a little bit more buttoned up, and that's what I just did this thing, talking about people versus process. People buy people. You know what I mean? People,
yes,
not people versus process, so people and process. That they buy people and they buy process. So they first buying you. You, the interior designer, do they like you? Do they know what they like, what they see? Do you have a good aesthetic? Do this? But then they're buying your process too. Do you do things orderly? Do you do them organized? Do you do them not like a daisical, but easygoing? Because somebody wants easygoing, somebody else wants, crazy pants fast, right? So it's that combination. And so there I was looking at the people. And if it was my first visit to the Borgata, I probably would have been like, this is a complete it was a complete disconnect to the rest of the ambiance,
Right.
Anyway, so I love that you learned that. But the thing is, so are we saying, I don't know. Did you go and get a degree in interior design, or it was just from living in Las Vegas and having a taste and having style and being in the middle of all this incredible design day in and day out that enabled you to go out and do this?
Yes, that's pretty much what happened. I've always had a love for design ever since I was younger. I was attracted to it. It was definitely a passion of mine. But Las Vegas is just, it's perfect for that.
Yeah.
You're every day you're inspired by by these new hotels or restaurants. Even the shopping centers are gorgeous. So, I mean, there's so much to pull inspiration from in this city that it definitely was in the perfect
right. Especially for someone like
environment.
yourself that loves it and notices it and has a passion for it. It's like, just a walking architectural digest every day of the week, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. So now let's transition through figuring out. You said it was about 6 months. Did you have an aha moment, or did you just sort of look back and say, all of my projects are in this demographic, or I'm noticing I'm enjoying these projects with these individuals more than what I thought was my ideal client? Tell us about that growth on your part.
Well, after the first project, the ball started to roll in that direction. So I followed it. That's one thing I've learned running this business, is that you have to be flexible. We can have a goal, but if you are attached to any kind of outcome, good luck. So I just kind of went with it, and I thought, wow, this is easy. And then I realized, oh, okay, after maybe the third project with, that single executive male role, a little older, I realized this is exactly the type of clientele I was serving before. How did I not pick this out from the get-go? I thought I would be serving, like I said, people like myself, young single women, and so it just fell into place, I guess, with all of the right elements, of course, with my prior training, all of the people that I got to know over the decade in the industry that I was working previously. And once I figured it out, I knew exactly what I was doing, because I knew how to speak to them. I knew what they wanted. I know what appeals to them. It's been ingrained in my work ethic, and just the way that we carry out projects ever since I started working in Las Vegas, I guess you could say, which I've only worked here. So my whole working career,
right,
I've had these qualities.
So what you really just understood the exact hot buttons and the exact criteria that served and pleased and engaged that particular demographic, and you repeat it in your design process. That's
correct.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, every hotel I've worked at and resort, they have a manifesto or just rules to live by, and I've adopted those, because whether I knew it or not, I was implementing them in my everyday environment already. So.
Okay. All right. You said something there that I loved. If you're attached to any outcome, good luck. And so I like that in two ways. Number one is the obvious in design. How about in the design process itself? Don't be attached to the outcome, because you might have to change on a dime when the tile doesn't show up on time, or
I guarantee it.
Right?
Yes. So it happens every day for us.
Yes. Right. And then of course the same thing when you initially said it, you were talking about the vision for your business, that you had an ideal in mind and an outcome in mind, and because you didn't dig in and stay attached to it. So Lisa, just give us I get it, but just give us a few more insights for someone who maybe isn't able to see it so clearly, but sort of feels like maybe something's not right, or the jobs aren't clicking, and they might be ignoring that little knock that says, hey, go this way.
Okay, well, I think that you have to first understand your audience, and maybe you're trying to sell something that's not needed at that moment, or to those clients, and you have to understand what strengths you have as well. If you focus on what you do really well, I think that people will gravitate towards you. If you're confident and you know what you're doing is if you're producing great work, people see that. People see the confidence, and they're more likely to hire you than somebody who, oh, do you want to buy my kitchen? Or and you're not so sure of yourself.
Right. That's what it is. It's hearing what's really very confident in you. It's finding your superpower, right? And really just stepping into it. And the thing is, what's interesting is that I'm thinking about Natalie Hurst, her program. Oh my goodness, I have to multitask again and look for the episode. Her program, Natalie, I want to say is in Iowa, but don't quote me on that. But she lives in a smaller community. She has children, more than a couple. I think it's 4. And she is very comfortable in that she doesn't want to grow her business right now. She wants it to be a business that she manages within her mommyhood. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so what happens is, because of that, she is mostly working with clients like her that also have children and understand that, this isn't going to happen every single day, 5 days in a row this week, because, we both have play dates on Tuesday and we have Halloween parades on Friday and yada, yada, right? So the point I'm making is that like you thought your ideal client was going to be you, a single woman, who wants a great environment and maybe is, working 1,000 hours a week, but doesn't have time to do this. And it turned out that on the surface, it wasn't you, right? So it wasn't you, but it really was a very deep part of you. It was a part of what you've learned and your skill set, right?
True.
So the thing about that is, when we're talking to our colleagues out there and they are trying to figure out their ideal client, maybe you've heard this on the show a bagillion times and you're like, well, I'm a mom of 2 kids, or I'm a dad of 2 kids, and this and that and the other thing, and I'm not, not really attracting those people. But I'm not attracting anybody because maybe you keep putting your marketing out for that, soccer mom type of personality that you identify with because it's who you are. And if it's not working, maybe you go a little deeper. What else do you know? I know Debbie Pinelli was on the show, and she is a mom of 2 children. Now they're boys, they're men now, they're young men. But the thing is, she came from corporate America, and she speaks so clearly to that corporate executive, the woman, mostly a woman executive, but anybody, because she understands that language. And so even though her life personally transitioned to being a self-employed interior designer working from home, her target client was still her previous avatar, who she was, because she understood their life, right? So it's just a little insight on, how you might, if you're listening out there, kind of grab your ideal avatar. Okay, and Natalie Hurst was episode 172. There you go. I'm getting so good at this. I just have to say, as we get, into almost 300 shows, it was one thing in the beginning when we were on the 40th show and I'd say, oh, remember Erica Ward? And she might have been the 20th show. But now we have so many new listeners and they're like, what show was that? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, you have amazing content.
Yes, but thank you. But I'm trying to make it easier for everybody to go, well, what show was Natalie? It's like, all right, I'll talk and walk at the same time. Okay. So I love that. And I love that little prompt for that exercise, that really both are very true to who you are, but they're very different to who your ideal client to work with is. And so it's just figuring out that sweet spot of where you work and your passion and your joy. So I love it. I love it a lot. All righty. Now I want to hear about a couple of other things. Tell me, is it simply that one has just begotten the other? So you're in this environment, you're in LinkedIn, you have this built-in network of 10 years, and one client has referred another, or have you additionally gone out and directed marketing towards it, or anything in that regard, Lisa?
Well, another kind of oopsie, and not that it was a mistake, but I opened up a Houzz account, a free Houzz account. And whenever I was finished with a project, I would ask our client to leave a review. I had no idea the impact that it would have. Today, now over 20 reviews later, and we continue to get their award every year for customer service and design. So 5 years in a row, and it was something that I had no idea that would bring attention. So whenever somebody Googles us, we pop up.
Okay.
And, that wasn't intentionally done so that,
right. It just
happened.
Right. You open up a Houzz account because that's what you do.
Yeah.
You're a designer and you should
Right.
have one.
Yeah.
Right.
So we get a lot of attention through Houzz, but I will say most of our projects, the ones that we do take on, and the clients that we work with, those are all word of mouth.
Okay.
And we're so blessed right now because we have a waiting list of three right now, 3 projects that we're not even able to think about or start until after the new year. And it's the beginning of November right now.
Wow.
So I couldn't be more grateful for that. I think it speaks volumes about what we're doing, and it helps me to stay on path because I know that what I'm doing is working. So,
and just go back to the Houzz reviews for a moment. It sounded like you actively asked each client to review you. Did I understand that correctly, or was yes?
That's correct.
Okay.
I do, because I know the impact that has. Now, especially now, but just from working in the hotels and the resorts,
the reviews,
word of mouth, it really it's definitely a great thing. So I think that even if it's a small project, somebody's word goes a long way.
So for colleagues that are a little intimidated to ask for a review or uncomfortable doing it, tell us your process. At what point do you do it, and how do you do it?
Oh, I ask when we're done. I ask how everything went. I ask them to talk about what they loved, and it's just been, it hasn't been hard. Maybe because I keep those lines of communication open throughout the whole project.
So are you doing it in person as you're, finishing parts of the install, or you ask them to share their feelings with you on the results of the project, and then when they've said 2 or 3 sentences, you go into, and would you mind leaving a review on Houzz? How do you exactly do it, Lisa?
Actually, as we were talking about this, I tell them before we even start working together that I will ask them to review me. So again, communication. Before we even work together, I let them know that I'll be asking them for a review at the end of our services. And so they have this idea from the get-go. So I plant that seed from the beginning.
I have to say, I love that. I mean, that's
it's in our contract.
I
too.
love that. That's amazing. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's how you upsell.
That's
right. That's
You're
an upsell.
Right,
you tell people what you're going to do, then you ask them to do it, and usually it works out in our favor.
I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, I have to say that's pretty clever. And the thing is, it's so what I love about it is I love the result that it gets you. Let's be serious, right?
Yes.
But what I also love about it is when you explain at the beginning you're going to ask for a review, it expresses how you are personally, intentionally, as the business owner, taking notice of how you conduct yourself because you've already said, I would like a review. And nobody wants a bad review. So I love that. So it's so much like for anybody that struggles with point blank asking a client for a review, to me, that flips it right on its head. Now you're giving to the client. Yes. Like you're actually giving them the notice that I'm going to be doing my best all the way through this process because I'm asking you right now if you're, to review me at the end of it. And of course, what you're attaching to it is that little level of requirement because you put it at the beginning. But I'm more talking about the person who might struggle with being uncomfortable asking for the review. You see,
Right.
I just think you flip it. Anything that you're struggling with, I say this all the time, anything that you're struggling with closing a sale, you're struggling with a hard conversation, you're struggling with anything, take your head out of it. Put yourself in the place of the other person. Is it really that bad? Or how could you make it easier for them? Because whatever it is, because 99% of the time, it becomes easier for you in that. I was saying to somebody, I forget where it was, we were talking about how sometimes it's hard to network, to walk into a room, even if it is interior designers or if it's a chamber of commerce event, and just walk in that room. And I was saying, why don't you pretend that you're the host? Find somebody that looks as uncomfortable or more uncomfortable than you. And in your mind, just pretend you're the host. We know you're not. Nobody's going to say, hey, you're not the host. But just go up and say, hey, you look like you're, having a good time, or you look like you could use another glass of wine. Whatever. As soon as you realize you're helping that person, now your head game is out of it. So I love that. I'm going to have to do that at WindowWorks. I like that a lot, Lisa. So, okay. All right. And okay, whatever. Okay. I love it. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about you. So I'm aware you met Darcy and Heather and Darcy and Christy and Jessie at a design conference, a summit. And you also were invited to go to Cambria's Residential Style Maker Summit in Minnesota. So that sounds like it was an invitation as opposed to a pay-to-go event.
That's correct.
Okay, so I want to know two things about that. I want to know the value of being there, but I want to know, how did you get invited to go? Because I'm sure there's designers listening. Once you tell them the value and what you learned and the experience of being there, they're going to be like, I want me some of that. So tell us about the couple of days and what you took away from it.
Well, it was such an amazing experience. They have that same level of 5-star, 5-diamond experience that I learned working on the Las Vegas Strip, working at the resorts that I worked at. And the way that they treat not just, so this is where maybe sometimes people miss the mark. You don't just treat your customers with that level of
service,
customer service. You treat everybody with that. You live and breathe it. You treat your employees. You treat your vendors. Your contractors. You treat everybody like that. And that's what Cambria. You can see it in everybody's smile. Everybody wants to work there. So they greeted us with so many gifts and amazing experiences. We got to tour their facility. They wined and dined us, I have to say. And there were, I believe, 15 other designers, architects, industry executives that attended this event. And it was invitation only. They do it, I believe, once or twice a year. And we just had so much fun, not just learning about Cambria, the product, but like I said, their environment, their company. It's a family-owned company, and you can just tell that the family is not just by their last name, but it extends to their entire company, all of the employees.
Isn't that the most amazing experience when you are in the midst of something like that, when you really see it in another company? It's so...
it's beautiful.
It is. It's just, and it's so inspiring.
It is. That's how we work here.
Yes.
We're family, and I think that you need to have a mutual respect for one another, and you need to know how to laugh together and cry together. We spend a lot of time together, so you have to be comfortable in that.
I love it. I think it's great. And how about the experience of being with the other designers and architects? Was it, 15 people is not, 3 others plus yourself. But what were some of those experiences like in having a chance?
It was amazing because I became a fangirl. I didn't realize until I arrived who the other attendees were, but they, in my opinion, are some of the greatest designers that I knew on social media
Oh,
and follow on Instagram and respect their style and admire their aesthetics. So that was really exciting for myself because it I got to meet them and see, oh, they're people just like me, right? And then swapping stories again about our design, how we run our business. So it was really special. We got to go to a Twins game as well. So we had some fun and had some learning sessions, but it was just an awesome experience. And I have to applaud Cambria for putting that on because it really is a great event that they hold.
That's exciting. Now, how did you come to be invited? Is it something where you could submit an application to be considered, or is it just like the universe smiles on you and somehow they found you? How does that work, Lisa?
Well, I would have to say that what I learned is that you need to put yourself out there, right? Especially not coming from a design background. I didn't know one person in the industry. So I started attending every event that I could so that I understood what was happening, around me. I had the client thing down, but I wanted to know, who should I meet? What can I learn? How can I help other people? How can they teach me? So I attend all of the markets in Las Vegas, especially. I've gone to other markets. I will attend whatever events, networking events that I hear about. And I think that through all of that and attending those throughout the years, it led me to the next step, which led me to the next. And my connection to Cambria actually was because I was working on the Las Vegas Showcase House, which I guess that process started, was it a year ago or 2 years ago? I can't remember now. It's since then been put on hold. But just meeting people through that, I was able to connect with Cambria. So like I said, you have to attend everything you can and start to meet the people, network, and it, like you said, the universe just smiled upon me with the invitation.
Nice?
But I think that I put the time and the energy to meeting people and getting to know the industry.
Well, it's what I say. You have to be prepared to get lucky, right? You did all of the work so that when an opportunity was there, you were noticed and selected to take part of it. Now, so it doesn't sound like there was any sort of level of minimum requirement of being a Cambria buyer in order to be considered or
No.
there. Oh, no. Okay.
No. And
because that would be totally
I
okay,
haven't spec'd
right?
it yet.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't hold that against anybody. Cambria takes
Not
their
at all.
10 best, top buyers or their 20, even not the top, because maybe sometimes the marketing is good to take your bottom 50, and make them rabid fans, right?
Right. Yeah. No, they really wanted to share their vision of their company and teach designers and industry partners about what they do and how they run their business. And I just think it's a wonderful program.
I love it. I love
yeah.
it. It sounds great. It's so fun to get together in a relaxed environment. It's great to get together in organized and action-packed and, teach me this and all of that other stuff. But it's also fun to have that downtime where you can really breathe and talk and, like you said, swap stories and so forth.
Exactly. It was a nice balance.
Now, talking about that, I didn't ask you before, and I meant to. The weekend that you spent with Darcy and Christy and Jessie, you described the things that you liked about it. Can you think about one thing or maybe one or two things that you specifically had an aha moment about that helped you in something in your business, or even if it didn't change the way you did things, where maybe something was nudging at you and now you were like, oh, I'm doing this good, I'm going to keep doing anything in that regard?
Well, probably the biggest takeaway was that whether you've been in business for 1 year, 5 years, 20 years, whatever your background is, if you have, a degree in architecture, interior design, or art, or kinesiology like myself. Doesn't matter where you come from, how much experience you have or don't have, we all have the same challenges. It's that's my biggest takeaway. And so it was nice to know that you're not alone, right? And yes, your experiences might be slightly different, but at the end of the day, we're all human. We all have the same challenges, and to be able to relate to one another in the same way, but have all of these differences between us and our backgrounds, it was really, that was my biggest takeaway.
I love it.
To know that, yeah, we're it's all relatable.
It's terrific. So now tell us a little bit about your particular firm. I know that you've worked on the Mandarin Hotel, and you have some high level projects going on here. Tell us about you, staff. What's your world like there, Lisa?
My world. It's constantly changing, and I love it that way. Actually, so I have a full-time design junior designer, and she's been with me for going on 4 years now, and she started as an intern, and I'm actually, all of my girls have started as interns, and I love that because they were willing to invest in me. Obviously for free, right. And they've all been with me for a long time. So I have one full-time junior designer. I just hired a full-time administrative assistant, and it just so happens to be my sister. Oh. So she comes from very similar background as myself. So she worked at the Wynn and Encore for the last years. So she comes, and that's where my last employment was, on the strip.
That's my favorite hotel.
Yes. So again, bringing in that 5-star, 5-diamond experience, and she understands that's what she lives, breathes, and eats, is that customer service experience. So we have her. I also have a controller who works part-time, and then 2 remote designers part-time.
Okay. I think it's funny how you're the first interior designer that's ever referred to someone as their controller. That definitely comes from your corporate background.
It does, right? And, she'll send out all of our billing, because I think I have no issues speaking about money with my clients. And that's not a problem anymore. Right. It was when I first started. It was a little uncomfortable, but not anymore. I don't have any issues. But I think the appearance of somebody else asking for the money, it's people think, oh, okay, well,
it's due.
She has somebody who's collecting her money. We better give it. So I think that might be something helpful for some other, even if this controller or accountant is not working in your design office, they can still ask for the money via email. I've noticed the money comes quicker.
Isn't that something?
Since implementing that.
Okay, I like that. I mean, the thing is to ask, no matter if it's you or somebody else, right? But tell us a little bit about that. You said in there that it wasn't, that it has gotten easier. Tell us about that little disconnect in there. What happened?
When I first started my business, I was wearing every single hat, and in order to keep it all in line and organized, I probably that was one of my challenges, because I was trying to juggle so many things. And once I understood how to ask, which is, there's no secret to it, you just ask for it. I can't start your project until I have money. But it just was learning to be confident and practicing, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's pretty, we're laughing about it, but it's pretty insightful what you said, is learning how to ask, which is simply actually to ask. You know, it is so true. And it does take a minute or a month or a year in order to be able to step in your space and do that. But the fact is that there is no secret to it. It is just doing it.
Yeah. And I mean, most of the time we make up so much information. So we make up so many stories about it.
Right.
Right. And then we're wasting time in our heads rather than just asking. And it's usually not a big deal because people understand that they're coming to you for a service, and that doesn't come free.
Right. Well, and that's sort of where the problem can lie, right? Because often one of the biggest things that I hear from interior designers in their businesses that they struggle with is having the conversation, the struggle with the outside world not taking their business seriously. And it's like the friend who calls every single night for, a design, question. And then when you ultimately want to say to them, I do this for a living and I'll send you an invoice, then all of a sudden they don't have questions anymore. Right. And so the thing is that it's a chicken and the egg sort of a thing. Right? Because you have to understand first for yourself that you are selling a service.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay,
is
good.
that it starts with you. You have to understand that you are running a business, and by setting up some boundaries, I think that's a great start. For example, on my voicemail, it says, if you're calling between the hours of X and X on these days, I'll get back to you within 24 hours. If it's the weekend or a holiday, we'll get back to you on the next business day. And I think that you're setting your clients up or potential clients up. Again, you're communicating with them. Right. You're telling them what to expect, like what I do with asking them for a review from the get-go. Right. So you set up these invisible boundaries, and people understand how you operate. And then they're going to follow suit. They're not going to call you at 3 a.m. and expect you to answer.
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, I love it. You have to understand it. You can't fault a client who doesn't take your advice seriously and understand they have to pay for it if you haven't first understood not to give it away. Right. And yes, you have to. I've learned what I need in my everyday life, what type of structure I need in order to be the most productive. And I have to tell my clients, this is how I work. And they have to, if it doesn't fit for them, then we're not the right fit for one another. Right, exactly. I think maybe some of it, before you have your confidence, maybe some of it is rooted in a little bit of what you said about the invoicing coming from a third party. It feels like a business, right? So the person getting it feels like a business. Now, not everybody that is able to do that, even on a part-time basis, is not able to have somebody send the invoice out. But the thing is to wrap your head around the fact that whether you are working out of the third floor bedroom, or you have an entire studio, or you have a controller, you have a business, right?
Right.
And so, again, I always say, put yourself in another set of shoes. Would you ever walk into a boutique and try on 3 sets of shoes and try and walk out with 1 pair without paying for it? It would never occur to you. It's a real, live, living, breathing business. If you want the shoes, you pay for them. So think about yourself as a living, breathing business, and your expertise on tile selection, drapery selection, floor plans is a service that has to have some, coin change in order to get it. So
right. And one little thing, my mindset has been from the beginning, and I think I alluded to it when I first said that I knew I always wanted to own my own business, but I had no idea what it would be. Is I like to say that I am a businesswoman who happens to design. And so with that mindset, it I know a lot of people are very passionate about their design, and sometimes they feel guilty for taking money for doing something that they love. Right. But maybe because if they flipped it, maybe they wouldn't feel so guilty. You are giving a service. You're just because you happen to be good at it and it takes you 5 minutes to whip up something that might take another person 3 hours, there's nothing to feel guilty about that,
You are 100% right. And you know what? I just had to multitask again. Kim Cutable. Kim Cutable said that on a podcast. Now, of course, try and figure out how to spell Cutable while you're talking and walking at the same time. I can't do it. But Kim Cutable said the exact same thing that you just said, Lisa. She said that you have to understand that just because you are passionate about it and you love to do it and you would do it all day long for free and it doesn't seem difficult for you and you can't imagine that someone else would have difficulty doing it, that is not the case for, thankfully, hundreds of thousands of other people out there. Right?
Well, she happened to rub off on me then, I guess.
Yes.
I worked with her.
Oh, you did?
A couple years back, but I believe that from the get-go.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's true. And I remember, I think I even shared it on that show. I remembered when I first understood that many years ago, my cousin, she lives in San Diego and I live here on the East Coast, and my cousin, like a sister from growing up, but as adults and our kids and everything, we probably would see each other once every 5 years. And then all of a sudden she was like, we just built a house. I would love for you to come out and decorate it for me and do the window treatments and do everything. And I was just like, it was like one of these, okay, thinking we're never going to do this. I'm not flying out to San Diego to decorate your house. This is ridiculous. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, after 6 or 7 months of her mentioning it off and on every, maybe 3 times in 6 months, and it was always like, you should come out, we'll have a visit, and then you can design my window treatments and decorate my house for me. And I was always like, whatever, and not because, hey, this was not a case of, hey, I don't want to do this for free. This cousin is like a sister to me. It was just like, we're not going to do this really. We're just saying this would be like, hey, it would be fun to do it, but we're not going to do it. Right. And then one night I got an email from her. I will never forget this. This has to be, oh my God, it has to be 15 years ago. I got an email from her and she said, okay, so I recognize that it's really probably not realistic that you're going to really take time out of your business and the kids and everything else to come out here and do my house for me. But just let me show you this proposal that I received from an interior designer and just look at it for me. Does it seem like it's logical? Does it seem like it's valuable? Does it seem like the pricing is right? Blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. And, I looked at it and I opened it up and it was literally a proposal to accessorize her master bathroom.
Oh.
Accessorize. Okay. Not like design it, not pick the tile, to accessorize it. And I come back to her and I mean, here's the items on it. Select towels, select tchotchkes for the jacuzzi, select, the tissue box. And I'm looking at this and I come back to her and I'm like, wait, you actually need assistance doing this? And she's like, I have no idea how to do this. And I was like, okay, I'm making a plane ticket. Yes.
How funny.
I mean, but like to us, it's second nature. I'm not even an interior designer, but like I'm in the industry 100 years. I can accessorize your bathroom. I promise you. You know what I mean? And and you know what? And she is a rock star at what she does. She is so good. And she, but this is not her wheelhouse.
It's intimidating for some people.
And I couldn't believe it. And you know what? The truth of the matter is, Lisa, it wasn't like she was wanting this bathroom accessorized from this exclusive trade-only source. She was happy for it to have been done at Home Goods and Bed Bath & Beyond, but still had no skill set for even walking in and picking. So I was like, no, sweetie. Okay, I'm coming out there. And then, of course, I went out and we did the window treatments for every room and we did the bedding and accessories and everything else in, like 4 days and a minute and a half.
Right, because to you, it's nothing.
Exactly.
And that's great. If people like her didn't exist, then neither would we.
That's right. Well,
in this element.
That's right. And that's where, when you have an experience like that, it makes it so much easier for you to truly not underestimate what you do for somebody in this business. Right.
Exactly.
And that's the beginning of being able to say, yes, sir, this is this much money and you will pay me this much money and then I will execute the work for you.
Exactly.
I love it, Lisa. I mean, I think it's so, it's very inspiring that you took so much of your previous experience and applied it, and it creates success in your business. And I love that you didn't get stuck on a vision that you've thought, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. And you went, oh, this is what's happening and this is good. Sometimes it's not a good thing, right? Sometimes you have to, watch where you're getting pulled if it's being in the wrong direction. But when it feels right in your gut, that's
I was just going to say that. Yeah. You have to pay attention to your gut. If it feels right, follow it.
Right.
Follow it.
That's exactly right. Well, I think it's awesome. I really thank you so much for spending your time with us. You had a lot of little nuggets there that are just I always say you have to hear something 3, 4, 5 times before you sort of get it. And so a lot of the things that you've said were just presented in just a little different way. And maybe somebody out there today will hear it just the way they needed to hear it. So thank you, Lisa, for coming on the show.
Thank you, LuAnn. It was a blast.
So that's some niche, isn't it? I mean, that's a very, very, very small niche. Single males, a little older, executives or CEOs. And the thing is, it's the power of the niche, because just like every single niche, once you've proven yourself to that group of people, then you get referral after referral. I mean, what do we always say? Everybody always says, birds of a feather flock together. Who knows more single male executives and CEOs than other single male executives and CEOs, right? And Lisa said it perfectly. If you focus on what you do well, people will gravitate to you. I love it. I also love that starting out in her new career, she decided she had to put herself out there. She decided to attend industry events, to learn as much as she could, and to make quality contacts throughout the industry. And I'd say it worked out for her. I mean, check out this little progression here. She goes to a design conference a year ago, 2016, in this August or September, whatever it was. She meets 3 women, and the 4 of them decide that they're going to get together for a weekend. I suggest that you go and you listen to the other episodes with Christy and Darcy, because in these episodes, we went a little bit more into the detail of some of the things that happened on that weekend. So Christy was episode 182 and Darcy was episode 120. They talked about how they did role play, how they shared their letters of agreement. It was a very productive weekend. So in addition to that, because she did that weekend with those women, then she gets introduced to a podcast, and she does a podcast where now 120 countries are hearing her story. Not bad for one little market event that she went to. Okay, and then she attends the Las Vegas market as often as she can. Obviously, it's near her, but still, some people stay home in their box, okay? She goes there, she meets people, and gets invited to the Las Vegas Showcase House. From there, she meets the Cambria people, and she gets invited to the Residential Style Maker Summit in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So I'm just saying, if you have a goal of being known, of making valuable quality relationships with industry leaders and peers, and if you're sitting there in your studio waiting for us to find you, you might have a long wait. So if this is your goal, then please get out of your studio, get involved in trainings, in workshops, in market events, and in conferences. It doesn't always happen with one meeting, with one connection. It usually does take a few, and it takes a little bit over time, but it does happen. Okay, I can say it does happen quicker now with social media, right? We've all of us, I've had many experiences with many of you where after months and months and months of knowing each other through social media, when we've met at the different events, it's like, okay, hi, best friend, right? So that's one cool thing about social media, as much complaining as I do about it, right? So I would make a suggestion to you. It's nearing the end of the year. Look ahead. Look at 2018. See if you can't plan something for every quarter, a training, a workshop, a mastermind, a live event, a conference. Plan something over the year. Make it happen. You can do it. If you're sitting in your studio, not attending workshops, not attending conferences, we don't get to meet you. All right. And that would be sad. So, all right. Speaking of meeting and socializing, please connect with me on social media. Are we connected by Instagram yet and Facebook yet? Are we? So on Instagram. I'm at LuAnn Nigara. Also, please go over and follow me too on WindowWorks on Instagram. Okay, that account is run. Well, both accounts are run both by Kimberly and myself. So you're talking to one or both of us for the most part on both of those. On Facebook, it is A Well-Designed Business, and it's also WindowWorks NJ on Facebook. Okay, so please let's make sure that we're connected. Also, if you want to be on the know on what's happening, and I have to just warn you, I've been teasing some things out, but there is a lot coming up in the first quarter of 2018. So I'm going to be launching masterminds. You found out last Friday that I'm doing a joint coaching session again with Nancy Ganskaufer starting January 4th, 2018, 6 weeks to success. This is for every business level, I promise you. This is the steps that we do in our business, particularly in WindowWorks every year. Nancy has a version of this that she does multiple times a year. We do it sometimes too when we're doing new launches. So this is every business level, but in 2018, the first quarter, I'm going to be doing masterminds and things for 5-figure earners, 6-figure earners, and 7-figure earners. So I've been giving it a lot of thought, and I'd like to break people up into the groups so that each group gets the most value from working with their peers, okay? The best thing is to be working with people who are just a little above and just a little below, but not so far above and so far below, because then you either get overwhelmed or you feel like you're not being challenged. So I'm giving a lot of thought to what we're doing and how we're going to organize it. And probably very soon I'll be ready to announce the details. But a lot of you don't listen to the podcast in real time. I don't know. You have other things to do, I guess. But the newsletter is the best way to know exactly what's happening. So if you are not on our email list yet, please go to text the word DesignBiz, DESIGNBIZ, to the number 444-999. Okay, so you're texting the number 444-999. When the field opens, put in Design Biz. It will bring you one more field where you put your email in, and then you'll be on the list. And there will be live events, but there'll be a lot of virtual. So if you are listening somewhere else in the world and not local to New York, New Jersey, have no fear. You'll be able to take advantage of probably 80% of the things that are coming up, okay? So that is our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Have an excellent day. Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.